Morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the New York City Transit and Bus Committee meeting. Let's get started with our safety announcements.
Your safety is of foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen to the following instructions. In the event of an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and 911 should be called. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell D down the hallway past the elevators. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. I'd like to begin today's meeting by thanking all our employees, the first responders, and everyday New Yorkers who immediately responded to the shooting on Tuesday, April 12th in Brooklyn. Your quick thinking saved lives, and we are grateful to all of you. New Yorkers, unfortunately, know tragedy, but more importantly, New Yorkers are known for our strength, courage, compassion, and determination. After the April 12th incident, we continued to use the system, riding the subways and buses back home that afternoon, a bit more vigilant, looking out for each other. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart to all those who helped that day, and to those who and to all those who are injured. You remain in our thoughts. Before I turn the meeting over to regular business, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Greg Cipriano for his hard work and dedication as interim president of New York City Transit. Craig took the helm at a critical time for transit, and under his stewardship, we brought back our combined subway, bus, paratransit, and Staten Island Railroad riders to a pandemic high of 4.95 million. Craig saw transit through the worst of our crew shortage, streamlining training programs to get more bus operators on buses and more subway operators and conductors in trains, serving New York City as fast as possible. He challenged his team to try new approaches to solve problems and to build and improve on existing metrics and performance. Craig, you did it by fostering creative thinking within your leadership team and finding solutions to issues and limited resources. Your energy and commitment to the role will be difficult to match, but I know you'll bring the same level of commitment to your new job as Chief Operating Officer. Thank you very much, Craig.
Thank you very much.
As I told him before, he's not really going anywhere, but anyway. So now we're going to move on to our public speakers.
Good morning. We have 9 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask all public speakers to adhere to MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I'd also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we will limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you when you have 30 seconds left to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Christopher Greif, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Christopher D. Bright. First, I wanted to thank our NYPD and our MTA staff that working together of saving customers, and I do want to thank the MTA crew. But I do want to thank Chief. I really want to thank your transit officers that really do the hardest work of trying to make sure to keep our MTA subways and buses safely, because we have seen a lot of incidents going on in Brooklyn, but we've seen how Transit 34 has been working with our local communities, and I hope to see that in the more future with other areas. But Craig, I will still be working with you always. You know, we'll still have some great times also. But I will say this again: we have to still work on together, everyone, to make sure that our transit system is not just safe, but ADA safe as well. And I do want to thank how the Queen's redesign is going very well, and letting everyone know. We do need to remind everyone to please attend those, because we need to hear your opinions, your comments, and let's work together, everyone. Let's stop the fighting. Let's work together and have peace and love, because we want to have better transit. We want to have better buses so we can get to where we have to go. Let's stop this who's right, who's wrong. We need to work together. Andy Byford says, let's move forward. So I'm going to say this again. Let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Charlton D'Souza, followed by Jean R.
Good
morning, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza, President of Passengers United. And today, the members of our organization are calling on the MTA to add surveillance cameras in all the new subway cars, including the R160s and R179s, because, the incident that happened at 36th Street, there was no cameras on the subway cars to get images of the suspect. And if you look at other agencies in the United States, like SEPTA, NJ Transit, you look at all these agencies, they have cameras. Even the Long Island Railroad has cameras in its newer cars. So what I want to know is why, with transit workers getting assaulted, passengers getting robbed and assaulted, there are no surveillance cameras in the subway cars. So I spoke to the New York congressional delegation, and many of the members told me that they agree that there should be cameras in the cars. Even some of the progressive members support that measure. So I feel like it's up to the MTA board now to get this rolling. I've spoken about this at prior meetings, and we need a level of security. As far as metal detectors are concerned, yes, that does work. But it has to be a system where you need also private security guards. I actually spoke to one of your private security guards in the system, and many of them are making minimum wage. You guys need to raise their salaries and give them more money. Now, in terms of the Queens Bus Redesign, I want to say that a lot of our senior citizens and ADA community are being left out of the Queens Bus Redesign because they don't know how to use a computer and they don't know how to log on to these meetings. That's why attendance has also been low. So, I do agree that we all need to work together, but at the same time, we also need the support, of our elected officials to come together. Thank you.
The next speaker will be Jean R., followed by Lisa Daglian.
Hello, I'm Jean Ryan, President of Disabled in Action of Metropolitan New York. I am going to speak about the on-demand excess ride pilot and the refusal of taxi and for-hire vehicle drivers to pick us up, especially wheelchair users. A few weeks ago, I got stranded in Manhattan for almost 2 hours because no one would pick me up. The app just said no vehicles available, and so did the person who answered the phone at Limitless and Excess Ride. But this problem is throughout the pilot vendors, as well as when Excess Ride tries to get a rescue ride for someone. Of course, there had to be someone available in all that time from all the drivers associated with the Medi app made by Limitless. This is not an unusual occurrence for any of us. We are aware that there are fewer drivers than before the pandemic, but we had problems with the apps then too, as well as drivers refusing to pick us up as an excess ride rescue and in person. I eventually had to get and pay for a Lyft ride so I could get back home to Brooklyn. What I want to know, and what many people are puzzled by, is when the MTA has a contract with a company to provide cars, and those companies have their own contracts with drivers and bases and fleets and cab companies, how is it that drivers can deny us rides time after time? Drivers should not be allowed to pick and choose what rides they want to do, even if they are so-called independent contractors. To us, it feels like discrimination and a violation of our civil rights, like other groups are also refused rides. Why is this allowed to go on? And why aren't the MTA and the TLC doing something about it? Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Lisa Daglian, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Daglian, Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, or PCAC. This is our first meeting since the April 12th shooting on the N train, and we'd like to again thank the transit workers who showed again that they are true heroes. Their actions saved lives and prevented a worse tragedy. Thank you also to the regular riders and first responders who stepped up to help the injured and scared. You exemplify the best of New York. And to the police, thank you for your hard work to get the guy. It took a lot of resources, yes, including MTA cameras, to pull together the details to reach that moment. New Yorkers are tough, and the next day we got right back on that iron horse. But we're also fed up. It's good to see that arrests are going up, but unfortunately so is major crime. This cycle must end so that riders feel safe enough to get back on board in the numbers we need to see to keep the system going. We want to get where we're going safely and reliably. For most of us, transit is the only option. Unfortunately, there's also been some bad news on the reliability front, and we're hoping to hear more about the causes of the major delays and what's being done to prevent them, including progress on track intrusion detection. It's frightening to read that March 2022 saw the highest number of persons on roadbed, police, medical major incidents since late 2018. In the spirit of transparency, we'd ask that you break that down further. We're also interested in knowing the causes of the signal incidents and how they can be prevented. Clearly, congestion pricing money can't come soon enough, and investments in prevention can certainly pay off in disruption savings. Thank yous are also in order. To Craig, we appreciate everything you've done on behalf of riders and are so glad you'll be sticking around to continue to guide transit. To Sarah and team behind Open Data, thank you very much for all you've done to unleash a treasure trove of information, which of course means we just want more. We welcome the great jump out of the gate. Thank yous to everybody for being great stewards of the environment. As Jano noted on Earth Day, transit is the antidote to climate change.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Jason Anthony, followed by Murray Bowden.
Good morning, Jason Anthony from Amazon Labor Union, the first independent worker-led union in the entire United States. This month, I came as an Amazon worker. Not only as an Amazon worker, I came as a subway rider. And why is that? Since 2015, I've been riding the subway system every single day. But what happened at 36th Street on the 4th Avenue line touched me personally. But there's one single person that has been in Transit PD, but hasn't answered, not even to activists like myself, nor to the MTA board. And that person is Catherine O'Reilly, who is right now on patrol. So, we want a meeting with Commissioner Sewell and with Catherine O'Reilly, because of Catherine O'Reilly is because we're having the situation that we're having right now in our transit system. And I know that Jason Wilcox is doing the best that he can, but we need more. And not only we witnessed the incident that happened at 36th Street, the other day I saw a guy in the rear of the R train as I was getting off at my home station at Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center. What is going on, folks?
Please conclude your remarks.
I'll do, Kate, and I'll see you guys in the next meeting.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Murray Bowden, followed by Andy Pollock.
What are the three most important issues that this organization faces? Safety, speed of the buses and trains, and costs. The previous meeting, I was supposed to meet with traffic engineers at the lower level of the Henry Hudson Bridge to begin the process of legalizing illegal lines. I got ambushed. The meeting never happened. They didn't bother telling me it wasn't going to happen. You've got 200,000 traffic engineers embarrassed to say, we've been doing it wrong for 40 years. This is distracted driving month. The information you give drivers needs to be consistent and the same every time. That was taught to me by somebody who's now on your staff. She's an excellent traffic engineer. So what do you do about it? Ask questions why the lines on a road are not correct. They were designed 50 years ago. You all have cell phones. You communicate differently. Virtually nothing on paper. The lines on a road should go where the snowplow goes. They should be clear, and a solid line should mean one thing. A dotted line means this line goes somewhere else. People are getting killed, and for every accident, there are other things that cost as much. Traffic, because you bring an ambulance, you bring a police car, you bring a fire engine. All those costs have not been figured in. Everybody's afraid of these people called traffic engineers. They don't want to be embarrassed. You've got all kinds of stoplights on the back of your cars, different shapes. Cars are different. There is no such thing as a bumper anymore. And yet the lines on the road are the same they were 50 years ago. Give drivers honest information.
Please conclude your remarks.
How many times do you want to blow it? I heard you. By the way, I can't understand you when you have a mask on. People sometimes need to see their things.
Please conclude your remarks.
I am concluding my remarks. Those were my conclusions.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Andy Pollack, followed by Joseph Rappaport.
Hi, Kate. Can you hear me?
Please go ahead.
Kate. Thank you, Kate. Hi. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Hada. Morning, Craig. Morning, everyone. So, well, 2 weeks ago, we saw what happens with this crime wave going on in New York City. Somebody decides to go into a subway and does the unthinkable. But thanks to our heroes who work in transit, a lot of lives were saved on April 12th. So today, I am going to request that the MTA look into installing cameras on the subway cars, particularly the R160s, the R179s, and the brand new R211s that are expected by 2025. South Korea and Japan, for example, they have cameras in their subway cars. So why isn't that the MTA, the largest mass transit agency in all of North America, not have cameras in the subway cars? This doesn't make any sense. Thank you, by the way. Take care. So I'm walking out of 7-Eleven, by the way. But in regards to that, my point is it's time to install the subway cameras. We need safety in the subways now. One more point. I'm still wondering, why isn't cash being accepted in the subway booths? I was at Fulton Street on the 4-5 train, not Fulton Street. Yes, I was by Bowling Green a couple weeks ago. Lady tells me there's still no cash transactions. I want to be able to put cash in the booth, put money on my Metro card. This has been going on for too long. So please start accepting cash transactions at the subway booths. I would really appreciate that because I asked this request last year and it didn't get filled.
Please conclude your remarks.
That's pretty much it, Kate. I'm going to conclude my remarks. Thank you so much, and I'll speak at Long Island Railroad later this afternoon.
Thank you. The final speaker will be Joe Rappaport.
Good morning. I'm Joe Rappaport, the Executive Director of the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled, also known as BCID. We add our voice in thanks to the brave union transit workers who helped at 36th Street. We also thank Craig Cipriano for his dedicated work at the helm of transit. And congratulations, Jason, on Amazon. 5 years ago to the day, on April 25th, 2017, my organization and other New York City disability groups, including Disabled in Action, filed 2 lawsuits against the MTA with our attorneys, disability rights advocates. We charge that the MTA violated New York City human rights law by not having a fully accessible subway system, and that it wasn't keeping the elevators it already had in good repair. 2 years later, in 2019, we brought another lawsuit as well, charging that the MTA had violated the Americans with Disabilities Act by renovating stations without making them accessible. It's been a long 5 years, and in spite of many court hearings, negotiating sessions, and some positive change in the rhetoric at the MTA, including an expansive plan by a previous New York City Transit president, we're still waiting for settlements. I hope we get there soon, not only on the basic accessibility question, but on the maintenance issue as well. I also want to remind the board and staff that we'll still be pressing on accessibility if and when our lawsuits are settled. You have a great deal of work to do to make subway stations accessible and safe otherwise, to make sure you keep bus routes available for disabled New Yorkers, and to turn things around on Access-a-Ride, including the issues Gene Ryan just raised, especially after the MTA had made so much progress just a few years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair, this concludes the public comment session.
Thank you so much. Before I'm going to turn it over to Greg. Greg, are there any changes in the work plan?
No, Chair, there are no changes to the work plan.
Great. Okay. Can you start off with the President's report?
Yes, thank you. So good morning. I'd like to open today's meeting by thanking New Yorkers for their support and prayers on April 12th. It was a harrowing day in our system after the shooting on an N train in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Like you, my first concern was for those injured, our riders throughout the system, and our New York City Transit employees. I'm so proud of our employees for their quick response in evacuating our customers to safety. Their heroic actions saved lives that day. And I'm proud of our entire workforce who took extra care, remained vigilant, and kept our city moving on that dark day. We've been through some challenging and difficult times lately. Your steady presence in the system as a voice of calm and an authority people can look for help in a crisis is so critical. Your dedication to your jobs and to our riders is what keeps our system and, in turn, our city running. I'd also like to extend my appreciation to Chief Wilcox and the NYPD and our state and federal partners who responded, investigated, and apprehended the individual responsible. Your professionalism and dedication to this great city is unmatched. And now I'd like to say a few words about cameras. First, I would refer everybody who's looking at our camera program to the police department's statement from the day after the event. The police department pointed out that there were 36 separate requests that yielded 4 positive results. We have over 10,000 cameras in our subway system and another nearly 5,000 in our buses. 600 cameras just on the N line in Brooklyn. 36 separate video perspectives that they looked at on that day of the event, and many of those we had several images of the suspect getting on the train, getting off the train, and riding a bus. So we worked intensely with the police supporting that based on all those camera resources. And the cameras. The story of our camera system is quite amazing. We increased our cameras by 60% in just a few short years because we decided to make it a priority. That's 2,000 cameras just last year. And nobody sent us a pile of additional money to do that. We made it our priority. We got a camera in every station, and we got there in just a few short years. It cost us hundreds of millions of dollars to do so, but we did it. And our camera failure rate is just about 1%. Some additional outages that are scheduled because we have work, and we have to take down the comm system. But that 1% rate, as the NYPD emphasized, is at the very bottom, the lowest of any agency that they work with. We field many requests for video at the MTA from the NYPD every day. That leads to the arrest and identification of hundreds of suspects. And I'm very pleased with our camera program. It's one of the most comprehensive camera coverages in our region. And now on to ridership. Overall, subway ridership increased by 4.6% the day after the attack to 3.22 million riders. And in Brooklyn specifically, it climbed by 8.3% to 717,000, up from 662,000 on Tuesday. Our latest ridership numbers are coming in at about 4.7 million, or about 58% of our 8 million pre-pandemic riders. Our highest ridership in 2022 was 4.8 million on April 5th, when subway ridership hit 3.36 million. We have recently seen 9 days in April with ridership coming in over the 3 million mark. And buses had almost 1.5 million riders on April 5th, and paratransit, 25,847 trips on April 13th. While I remain encouraged that our numbers reflect that many riders have returned to the system, I recognize that overall, returning ridership has plateaued. Together with our state and local partners, and with the help of NYPD, we will continue to work hard to gain our customers' confidence to return to the system. And Omni use has increased in tandem with returning ridership. We recorded 1 million taps in the subway alone on April 8th, the first time we've hit that milestone on one mode in a single day. The new fare payment system now accounts for approximately 1/3 of the market share, a notable increase from just a few weeks ago. And this is no doubt was helped by the introduction of fare capping, which let customers ride for free after the 12th trip in 1 week period. And finally, I'd like to express how grateful I am for the privilege of leading New York City Transit these last 9 months as interim president. As I assume the role of Chief Operating Officer, I look forward to working with our new president, Rich Davey. Rich will lead the finest team of individuals in transportation. They are truly second to none, and I thank them for their dedication and commitment. So I thank you all. We all look forward to welcoming Rich on May 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Do we have any questions for Craig? Okay. Lorraine?
Hi, Lorraine.
I want to go back to what? Oh, yeah, that's counterintuitive thing. I want to go back to one of the earlier questions that was raised by one of the public comments. And it's about accessoride and the no-shows. And I know that you've been working hard on that. I think we need to really put some more work on that. It's the amount of complaints that I hear from my perch as Commissioner for Aging, it's tremendous. And and we hear about the improvements, we hear about the additional subprimes and all of that, but yet nothing is happening with the actual system of signing on, waiting for a car, giving feedback. And I think that's one of the things that we have to correct first. And so I know you're going to tell me that we're working on it, and I know we are working on it, but I think that we need to be a little more deliberate about this, because people are aging every day. People are going to use paratransit every day. And we have these communities that are so dependent on it. And we just can't. We just cannot not give it the kind of attention that we're giving to cameras, that we're giving to electric buses, that we're giving to everything else. We need to, this is not a paratransit. This is a transit system for a segment of New York City. And that's how we have to look at it. And unless we do that, and I have issues with our contractor, what is it, CGL, CLG, whatever they are. They've had this contract for a long time and things have not improved, and I have some real serious concerns about it. But I just want to know, when can we start seeing some major improvements? Because we hear about it over and over and over again. And that's the definition of insanity, expecting a different outcome. We can make the difference, all right?
Sure. So if I may make just a couple comments, and
Sure.
I appreciate your comments. One thing I just want to share is that, you said, when are we going to start focusing on paratransit? I think, quite frankly, Chris Pangilinan, who just came on with us, paratransit used to report in through buses, and recognizing that paratransit is one of our 3 core modes of transportation, we organizationally recently made a change, and that's why, Chris is here now, where, we raised the elevated paratransit reporting directly into the transit president so that we focus on subway, bus, and paratransit equally. So that's one piece I just want to share, make sure that it's out there. The other thing is, and you see it in the committee numbers and the performance numbers, and Chris is going to speak to it, we actually have made some good progress over the last few months. Certainly in the fall, based upon everything that was happening with COVID and, market availability, our no-show rates had gone up, our on-time performance had suffered, but we've been chipping away, and you'll see that over the last few months, both on-time performance has improved, as well as the no-show rates have come down. There's still some more work to be done, no doubt, but Chris and the team are focusing on that, and, we're headed in the right direction there. The one thing I do just want to share is one of the speakers had some comments around our e-hail program specifically, and the challenges around getting a car in that e-hail program. We are taking a close look at the e-hail program, but one thing that's important to recognize that the e-hail program, and I recognize that it provides that our customers who have availed themselves of it use it, and they appreciate the flexibility they have. It is what's considered a premium service. In other words, it's outside the paratransit sort of mandate, and it takes advantage of the the industry and the market out there to give our paratransit customers an opportunity to get a car at the time. One thing we cannot do is we cannot insert ourselves between that, because if we do, then it becomes a paratransit service, and then there's other triggers that such as random drug testing that trigger there. So just one thing to keep in mind, I recognize that the e-hail has provided our customers some flexibility, and we're taking a closer look at how we can move on in that program. I just wanted to share that. But I appreciate your comments for sure. Thank you.
Victor?
Thanks, Lorraine. It's nice to have someone else digging in on this issue with me. Craig, the last 9 months have been great working with you. You've been transparent with me, and I'm sad to see you go, but I'm glad you're staying because I still get
not going anywhere.
I know, and I still get to bug you, so I look forward to that and making the change that we really need to, and I know you've been committed to that, so thank you for your service. What happened in Brooklyn and the shooting, it's pretty devastating for everyone, and I know MTA has been working hard at repairing all of that, figuring out what went wrong, and continuing to reassess. And with that, I spoke last time there was an evacuation about people with disabilities. So I want to know, I want to figure out what needs to be done for people with disabilities. So if I'm stuck in that train, what happens? Where do I go? I know you have some plan in place. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but what that plan is, and as you refine it for unfortunate events that happen like this, we need to really be able to communicate those to riders. And we can do that in lots of different ways. Number one is there are paratransit people that do take the subways and buses as well, getting the message out to them, putting out to disability communities like the ones that are advocating on testifying today. So we need to do that. So we need to convey that plan to people with disabilities. And as you refine it, I'm more than happy to dig in with you because I do have some emergency management skills that I can put forward. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Victor. Right after that, we did take the opportunity, started the conversation with Q, as Rachel's here. So we are having those conversations, and obviously it's not just us, we'll work together with our partners at FDNY, NYPD, but
Right.
we did start those discussions, and I appreciate your comments.
Right, and I was going to say, Victor, FDNY was on the scene, so we were able to help everyone that needed help.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Greg? Yes, and
Craig, I'll echo everyone else's thanks to you and glad you're going to be staying around. So obviously I'm a big supporter of the cameras in the system. They've caught any number of bad people, including people who've committed crimes not in the system, but as you recall, the Central Park rapist ran into 5th Avenue, 59th Street. The image was caught and they caught him a short time later. So I think it's great. I'm just wondering if a camera goes down or if the internet feed to connect the camera goes down, are we notified or is transit notified in a timely manner that that particular camera is not transmitting or is down so that crews can be sent to fix it?
So all our cameras that do stream, they stream back to our C3 center and also to the NYPD directly. We get notified almost immediately. I think NYPD does every 24 hours is doing a continual check. And so we get notified either through C3 center or through NYPD.
So it's within how quick a period of time would you say when a camera goes down for whatever reason that?
Yeah, within the 24-hour period we would get notified. In this particular case, just to give you an example, we were already working in that room when the incident happened, and then we had to evacuate. So we knew about that before even the incident.
Was there something particular that caused the 25th Street station also to malfunction, their camera?
Yes, it was all one issue. So 25th, 36th, and 46th, 45th,
yeah.
I'm sorry, all connected through that one
I see.
server room.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, it was all connected. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Bobby, do you want to add something? Okay. Got it. Okay. All right, perfect. Okay. I'm now going to turn it over to Demetrius so you can discuss subways. Morning, Demetrius.
Good morning. Before I begin my report, I'd like to briefly speak about an incident early this morning involving a signal helper who was struck by a train. The details of the incident remain under investigation. I joined him early this morning in the hospital. The employee sustained injuries to his ribs and arm, but he's in good spirits and will remain in our thoughts as he begins his recovery. Moving on to this month's report, I'd like to first thank the subway staff who responded heroically to the events of April 12th. These crews came to work that day and began their duties expecting an ordinary day. The train crews on the scene, including train operators David Ortiz and Michael Catalano, and conductor Raven Haynes and Willie Sanchez, were faced with unimaginable circumstances and had only seconds to evaluate the situation. They used their training to keep customers calm and then acted quickly and decisively to get customers off the N train where the incident occurred and usher as many people as possible onto an R train to bring them out of 36th Street Station. At the same time, station agents and cleaners on the scene quickly relayed information and assisted customers out of the station. Additional staff from throughout subways responded to the scene to support the police investigation and keep as much service as possible moving, while station agents, conductors, and other staff were deployed around the system to help customers find alternate routes while service was interrupted. The station's team established a temporary barrier to allow service to resume through 36th Street while the investigation continued, and then thoroughly cleaned the area. Thanks to these efforts, we were able to restore service quickly after the incident, with some Brooklyn-bound service along the 4th Avenue line at 4 p.m. and Manhattan-bound service at around 6:30 p.m. Full service, including reopening of 36th Street Station, resumed less than 24 hours after the incident. Now I'd like to present March results, which show continued progress in making the customer experience more reliable. I'm pleased to report that Subway's reached an important milestone in our efforts to deliver service reliably. Not only was weekday service delivered risen to 94.5%, its highest point since last April, but every single line has service delivered over 90% on both weekdays and weekends. Weekday on-time performance increased to 82.2%, 1.6% better than a month ago, and the number of trips canceled due to crew availability decreased by nearly 70% compared to December of 2019. Our aggressive hiring and training efforts have proven successful in making more trains available to customers, shortening wait times, and providing more service each day. While we're running additional service, March also saw dips in some operational metrics, including major incidents. There were 18 major incidents involving persons on the roadbed and police or medical response, the highest since late 2018. While overall delays from these type of incidents were down slightly compared to February, several were particularly disruptive. Thanks to our partnership with the city and state on the subway safety plan, we expect these delays to improve in the coming months. There was also a significant external event that affected service, including the fire at Flushing that required a temporary suspension of 7-line service to Main Street Station and delayed 233 trains on March 17. Overall, we see the customer experience becoming more reliable. Customer journey time performance, or the percentage of individual customer trips that were made on time, is up to 83.9%. This is 0.3% higher than last month and the highest since May of 2021. We look forward to continuing our upward trajectory and making the customer experience faster, and more consistent. Finally, I'd like to thank Craig for his leadership and commitment to Subways during his tenure as interim president. I look forward to continuing to work collaboratively with him in his new role as Chief Operating Officer. I also look forward to working with Rich Davey as he assumes his role as president next week. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Demetrius. Do you have any questions for Demetrius? Okay. If not, we move on to Frank. Update on buses. Morning, Frank.
Good morning. I also want to extend a huge thank you to Craig for your advice, guidance, and leadership as interim president of New York City Transit during some of the most difficult times in our history. We look forward to working with you as a Chief Operating Officer and as we welcome Rich Davey to the role of New York City Transit President. This month, my heart goes out to our colleagues in Subways and the victims of the Sunset Park incident on April 12th. The actions of the Subway teams were nothing short of heroic. I would also like to recognize the amazing work the buses team in providing critical shuttle service throughout the day and into the night, taking affected customers where they needed to go. As the last few years have shown us, we have the best team in the business who rise to every single challenge. Turning to bus performance in March, I am pleased to report that this was the second consecutive month of improvements after the Omicron surge. Almost all indicators showed improvements over the previous month. In particular, service delivered was 96.4%, or 1.8% higher than February. Weight assessment was 77.7%, or 2.1% better than February, and close to pre-pandemic levels. These improvements reflect on our aggressive efforts to address operator shortages and effectively manage service. At the end of last month, we celebrated the release of the new Queens Bus Network Redesign Draft Plan. And last week we held the first 2 of 14 virtual public workshops scheduled through the spring and summer. There is still plenty of room to make changes, so please go to our website, new.mta.info/Queens Bus Redesign, and register for one of our workshops or just submit your comments. In celebration of Earth Day this month, we were proud to showcase one of our latest all-electric articulated buses at the New York International Auto Show. It is important to recognize the crucial role the MTA plays in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Converting our entire bus and non-revenue fleet at New York City Transit to zero emissions will save over 500,000 metric tons of carbon emissions. We are working aggressively towards this goal. And at the board meeting this week, we will be presenting on the progress we have made towards getting the bus fleet to zero emissions by 2040. That ends the buses report.
Thank you, Frank. Do we have any questions for Frank? If not, we move on to Chris, who will provide the paratransit report. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Thank you. With ridership in February up 15% from January, primary carrier service performance indicators remain at or better than our goals. On broker service, we continue to mentor MWBE firms and see performance holding steady due to various incentives that are encouraging drivers to return to perform AAR trips. On primary carrier service, the 30-minute pickup window for on-time performance declined slightly from last month by 4 percentage points, however remains at the goal of 94%. No-shows per 1,000 scheduled trips was at 1.2, still better than the goal of 3 and better than December 2021 performance of 1.9. For broker service, the February 30-minute pickup window was 93%, maintaining the 90% performance level for the third consecutive month. Broker no-shows at 4.7 remains above the goal of 3, although significantly improved by over 45% from 8.6 in December 2021, and we continue to recognize the ongoing need to push this down. These results indicate that the incentives continue to help improve broker services despite an increase in ridership and traffic congestion. As a direct result of better on-the-street performance, our call center performance achieved 95% of calls answered in February, which is at goal. We remain cautiously optimistic that with the tools available to us, supply will meet future demand for service and performance levels will remain stable. Preliminary results in March show this trend holding. In April, the week of the 11th was our busiest since March 2020, with 3 consecutive days over 25,000 trips. And lastly, I want to thank Craig for his leadership and his mentorship during our short time working together so far. He has been a strong supporter of paratransit and an ally that the disability community can count on. And I also look forward to working with Rich when he comes on board next week. I also want to recognize all the wonderful paratransit staff at 3300 Northern, who I continue to meet as I get up to speed, for their great ideas which they have shared with me so far to maintain and improve service quality going forward. That concludes the paratransit report.
Victor.
Welcome, Chris. I'm glad you're getting a good chance to dig in with the staff, and I'm hoping everything's going well. So it's a good staff over there, and I'm glad you're taking their ideas because they're the ones working on it every day and can change things. As far as I see that the numbers are going up for ridership, which is great. I am a little concerned. I know you guys have all been working hard to incentivize, get more brokers, and so on and so forth, and those are all good steps. And ridership is a little bit lower than it was when we were having this problem in October, but it is creeping up, I see, from the numbers that were provided. And I just hope that when it does reach that mark and goes over that mark, that you're fully prepared to take this on and not have the issues we were having with on-time performance and call centers, because I know the call centers were a mess, and it's good to hear that the call performance has gotten better. So I just hope you're taking all the steps that are needed to make sure we don't fall behind. And I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Any other questions? Lorraine.
Yeah. Chris, welcome. I just want to thank you. I think for the sake of, as we're making these movements and these improvements, and you have a fresh view on this, the one thing that I would recommend is to, when you're reporting an increase in numbers, give what was the mitigation strategy that moved that. Because I think people will then see or have a sense of confidence that there's some things in effect, that it's not just the same old, that we looked at the problem and we're coming up with other solutions. And I think a little more context to the numbers gives people a sense of confidence that we are giving it the kind of focus that we need to. So that's just my suggestion to you, and welcome. Look forward to working with you for the time that I have on this board. Thank you.
Sounds great.
Any other questions for Chris? If not, thank you, Chris. I'm going to move on to Rachel Cohen, who's in for Q. Rachel, can you give us an update on accessibility, please? Good morning.
Of course. Good morning. How are you? At our March committee meeting, Interim President Cipriano announced the creation of a working group focused on addressing the challenge of bus access for parents and caregivers traveling with children in strollers. I'm happy to report that we've selected 13 members to sit on this working group. Collectively, they represent our bus operator unions, parents and caregivers, and customers with disabilities who ride the bus across our city, and we held our first meeting on April 14th. We plan to meet with the group throughout the next several weeks and work toward recommendations on how we can improve bus access for this group. Like the recent update to our autogate policy and our redesign of buses to provide more flexible seating, this is another step to broaden our definition of accessibility. And it's one that's especially timely as we welcome more and more riders back to transit. We're encouraged by the initial discussions, and we'll be sharing the working group findings and recommendations to the committee, to MTA leadership, and to the public this summer. Second, an update on our elevator replacement projects, which continue to move forward across the subway system. In April, we put the final 2 elevators undergoing replacement at 34th Street Herald Square back in service, and completed the replacement of elevator 215, which serves the express platform at 34th Street Penn Station on the 123. This elevator includes a new passenger assistant speakerphone system with a 2-way texting feature within the elevator cab, and it's the first elevator in our system to have this feature. Following the completion of this replacement, elevators 214 and 216, which serve the local platforms at Penn Station on the 1 line, are now out of service for replacement. And we just take this opportunity to remind our customers that real-time elevator status information is available on the MTA website, maps on digital screens throughout our system, print and digital signs at impacted stations, and through announcements in stations and on trains. We thank our customers for their patience during these elevator replacement projects and hope that you will all enjoy returning to a more comfortable, reliable elevator ride when these projects are complete. And that concludes our update for this month. Thank you.
Any questions? Sorry, Victor.
Thank you. Rachel, thank you for the update on 34th Street. Now we can see the Rangers go to the playoffs. Let's go Rangers. Sorry, Hada. As far as strollers go, it'd be great. I believe there's a balance. A lot happens in Europe where they go to the back of the bus. And now with that, we have all boarding. Maybe that's an option, and maybe there can be some seats that fold up that we can get there because there's more room to maneuver up there. Back there than it is when it's crowded. So maybe that's an option, and I look forward to seeing this happen. So thank you.
We're encouraging this working group to look at all possible options and come back with recommendations that can increase access and, not cause access issues for other customers. So looking forward to reporting back.
Okay. Any other questions for Rachel? If not, we'll move over to Sarah for an update on strategy and customer experience. Good morning, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to give a brief update on Omni and our efforts to make the retail network work a bit better. The retail network, just as a reminder, is meant to support those using cash and those who do not have access to contactless cards. There are a significant number of customers who are sort of locked into this old school credit card method by their transit benefits accounts. We know that there are a lot of Eden Red accounts out there that have this issue. So after a ton of legwork and phone calls by the Omni, Cubic, and strategy and customer experience teams, we're proud to announce that the card shortages customers were initially reporting have significantly improved, especially at Walgreens, 7-Eleven, and CVS stores. 11,283 Omni cards have now been sold by over 952 retailers and at the Transit Museum store in Grand Central Terminal. We're also working to ensure that we have the appropriate geographic distribution and that all cashiers at these locations are trained to sell and reload these Omni cards. 2,000 locations are now technically enabled to sell Omni cards. As we've mentioned previously, once those vending machines, the Omni vending machines, are placed in subway stations beginning in the fall, those will be the primary method that customers will be able to use cash to reload their Omni cards. So the retail network right now is being used as the sole access point, but in the future, the CVMs, the vending machines, will be much more accessible and much more available to our customers, and we anticipate those being used a lot more than the retail network. The Omni team also launched a live chat assistant on the Omni website as we're gearing up to dramatically expand the reduced fare Omni pilot program in June and the paratransit Omni program in May. We expect a lot of customer inquiries and questions, so we're getting prepared to handle the volume and ensure we're all set up for success, and happy to answer any questions on the program as it stands right now.
Any questions for Sarah? Okay. If not, we move on. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move over to safety and security. Bobby?
Sure. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'd just like to take a moment to also thank Craig for, not only his leadership, but also for always challenging us to think out of the box. We know each other a long time from the beginnings of the Eagle team, and I just want to say that it's been a pleasure as you were in that position of interim president. And everyone in the safety and security group looks forward to working with you in the COO position, as well as working with Rich when he comes on board. Just want to say thank you. All right, with that, I'll give you the safety report. When comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one, subway customer accident rates decreased. It's worth noting, though, that these 12-month rates have decreased each month since March of 2021. Bus collisions and collision injuries increased while customer accidents were relatively flat when comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one. However, bus collision injuries decreased noticeably when compared to the most recent pre-pandemic period. To address some of these increases that we're seeing in Department of Buses, they send out a weekly talking points to their entire management team, and all statistics are incorporated into their training classes and shared with personnel in road operations as well as in the depots. Employee lost time accidents showed a decrease when comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one. And we have seen an increase in subway fires when comparing the last 12-month period to the previous one. Debris fires have seen a decline, though, since February as a result of cleaning initiatives in the Department of Subways. It should be noted that for March, vandalism accounted for 84% of station fires, which were low to average severity. And with that, I'm going to stop here and ask Chief Wilcox to please give the crime report. Chief?
Thank you. Good morning. Craig Cipriano, since I arrived here in January, it's been a privilege to work with you. Your excellence, your professionalism, your friendship has been greatly appreciated, so thank you so much for that. So with regard to the train attack at 36th Street in the confines of District 34 back on April 12th, I want to take this moment to thank the MTA for their partnership. The collaboration with the MTA at that scene and throughout that entire day, including members sitting here right now in this room, greatly assisted our ability to control the scene, to help the injured, and enable the NYPD, including our many responding officers and investigators, including the bomb squad, the emergency services unit, and the crime scene unit, to safely, effectively, and methodically do their jobs. It was already stated, New Yorkers, listen, we're a tough and resilient bunch, and we look out for each other. The next morning, I was back out in Brooklyn in those same train stations and same train lines affected by the attack. I saw New Yorkers back on the trains and back in the stations, back at it, moving forward. I saw our transit officers patrolling and protecting. I was proud of them all. Let me emphasize, this awful and intentional criminal act will not deter us. We will continue to patrol our subways with the determined effort that we initiated at the beginning of this year, with emphasis on these tenets of our subway safety plan. Uniform train patrol. We have done 113,000 train runs this year, an increase of 34%. Enhanced presence, enhanced visibility throughout the system. Greater attention to serious quality of life issues. Focused enforcement efforts to fight crime. Our arrests are up 63% this year. And continued nightly coordinated operations with Department of Homeless Services and Health and Mental Hygiene regarding homeless conditions in the subway, on the trains, and at the end of the line stations. In the past, I've spoken about felony assaults in the subway earlier this year at this very meeting, but we continue to see increases in this area, where overall transit crime, including larcenies, robberies, have managed to stay at averages that are less when compared to pre-COVID levels. The same cannot be said for felony assaults, where we see a continued increase over time. We have seen an increase in the area of 33% this year in felony assaults when compared to 2021. It accounts for about 29% of our total major crime picture. The multiple shooting assaults from 36th Street have affected this increase, but there are other driving forces as well. We have seen an increase of over 70% of stabbing, slashing assaults. Such type assaults account for 8% of the total. Way too many. Assaults with objects, a stick, a cane, a hammer, are also up 48%. Many of these assault incidents have started as a dispute, a bump, a shove, a shoe stepped on, or an argument over a seat that then quickly escalated to violence. We have also seen over 20 felony assaults of MTA employees, more than 25 assaults on police officers, many of which began as a quality of life engagement. We have made many arrests for these crimes. Approximately 60% of these incidents have an arrest. And we have also made over 230 arrests for cutting instruments this year in the transit system. We are deeply concerned by these assault numbers, and we, along with our detective squads who investigate these incidents, will stay focused on this area. I also want to mention the crime of grand larceny, particularly snatches from the hand, the majority of which are electronic items, mostly cell phones. We are up around 19% this year in overall snatches so far in 2022. This accounts for a quarter of our total grand larceny picture. So just to those listening, just please stay alert when looking at your cell phones in the subway. Stay focused and see what is going on around you or who may be getting close to you. I also want to note, when we look at these crimes, the utilization of MTA cameras and the video obtained from them continue to assist in our investigation and help us solve crime. I just want to also mention some new and important developments in the Transit Bureau. Deputy Chief Christine Bastiedenbeck has been named Executive Officer of the Transit Bureau. Joining with our other Executive Officer, Tom Pinella, they form a strong executive leadership team, both having significant NYPD transit experience. Chief Bastiedenbeck has 24 years' experience with the NYPD, including the last 10 years, where she has worked as an executive in the Transit Bureau, where she commanded the Brooklyn Transit Task Force and Transit District 1 in Manhattan, and most recently oversaw the daily operations of the Office of the Chief of Transit. In addition, we have 2 new district commanding officers in Brooklyn. Captain Yasir Salim joins our transit team as the commanding officer of Transit District 30, covering the lines and stations in downtown Brooklyn. He joined the NYPD in 2004 and started his career patrolling the subways as an officer at Transit District 34 out in Brooklyn South in the Coney Island area. Captain Hawan Kim, after having worked since 2019 as the executive officer at Transit District 32 in Brooklyn, where he did an exceptional job, he now takes over as the commanding officer of that command, District 32. Captains Kim and Salim are both excellent up-and-coming leaders in the NYPD, and we wish them great success in their new transit commands. And last, but definitely not least, we have 67 newly assigned police officers who have now been assigned to our subway training unit. These young officers graduated from the police academy the day after the attack at 36th Street and came to us that Thursday. I have spoken with them now in smaller groups and as a collective whole, and I expressed to them the importance of their new assignments and the significance of the timing of their arrival to patrol the New York City subways and keep people safe. They get it, they understand, and they are determined as well. So with that, I'm going to just say thank you all for your continued support, and any questions?
Before we ask questions, Chief, thank you again from the bottom of my heart for April 12th, and thank you for putting the new leadership team together and for the 67 new, I guess they're not recruits, additions to the transit team. That's great, and we look forward to working with you, but thank you again.
Thank you.
Lorraine?
Thank you again, Chief Wilcox. I have to just say that it is so gratifying to hear your opening remarks, Jano's remarks after the incident on April 12th, and everyone's remarks, because when I first got on this board, which wasn't that long ago, it really was, and I remember the city employees, it was always like this, what is it, a Russian roulette kind of shooting squad where we were always looking for someone to blame. And I just am so gratified to see the cooperation. I hope, and because I know that that just moves things forward. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for your leadership and also for the team that you've assembled.
Thank
and
you.
Godspeed to those 27 or
67.
67 recruits.
67.
Okay. Here's a question that I have. And this is an incident that I'm very familiar with because it happened to my general counsel. Do we have protocols in place? Or maybe the suggestion is, should we have protocols in place? And I think it's you as well as Sarah's team. When someone is victimized on a train or a platform and they have the and they're getting assistance from transit, which was greatly supported by transit staff. Do we have a protocol in place for, do we stop trains to look for the perpetrator? What do we, or what is the protocol? Because this particular individual that I know got conflicting information from the officer versus the station staff. So I think it would be helpful, for us to start at least knowing what the protocol is. We have to see something, say something. We should have some protocols because the incidents are happening a little more and more frequent than we would neither of us wants. But protocols in place so that victims could know exactly what they should do, what should be the next step that they should do. Should they get off the plane, get off the train, and what those should be, and those should be more. We should have a public education campaign. So my question is.
So Lorraine, let's just jump in because there is a very robust protocol in place. Craig, I don't know if you want to.
Is there? Because
there is.
Because I asked Jano about it, and
I don't know what you did with Jano, but we can tell you, and believe me, it's in place.
Great.
Oh, okay,
Good
let me
to hear, but then
I'll start off, and then Chief
Right.
Wilcox and others, could chime in. So, I mean, whenever one of our customers has an incident, either on a train, on a platform, I mean, by all means, either find a subway employee right away, notify them.
Mm-hmm.
We have help points throughout our system. You can go through the help points. But what happens is then that immediately goes through our rail control center, and that gets put out over what we call the 6-wire. So the 6-wire sends information to PD or fire department, depending on what the specific incident is, and then it's all coordinated at our rail control center. As a matter of fact, since the subway safety plan has started, Chief Wilcox has put extra resources in our rail control center, and we work very closely with those resources between PD as well as our own people, on the ground at the particular station, both service delivery and station personnel. And depending on the incident, decisions will be made on whether it, requires something to be done with service, or, our main core is to obviously, address the situation, but keep service moving to the best that we can. But, Chief Wilcox, by all means, if you want to.
I mean, so just to follow up on that, every crime is a unique situation, and every victim is unique. So, I mean, the key thing, as you said, is just to let somebody know, whether it's to call 911 or to alert somebody in the train crew or at the platform or somebody in the booth, so that they can let the 6-wire know, so rail control can get it out to 911, get it out through to us. I have a supervisor, a sergeant working in rail control 24 hours a day, co-located right there at sort of the seat of this, so to help us get information out quickly. So that's part of the protocol. And then if it's a crime happening in progress, it goes to 911 and outsourced, and then they coordinate it, and resources are driven to that incident. But the key thing is to let people know as soon as possible, so we can get there as soon as possible.
yeah, thank you for that. And Haveth, I'm glad to know, and thank you for informing me, because I had asked Jano the same question about the protocols. Now I guess there is a communication campaign that we need with customers so that they may be more aware of what those protocols are and what are some of the next steps.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
If not, we're going to move on to Judy McLean, who will brief us on service change. Judy?
Good morning. This month, there is one service change staff summary in your committee book, which is for board information only. We are proposing to revise a small portion of the Q102 route due to changes that our partners at New York City DOT are making to 21st Street in Long Island City, Queens. These changes will add bus priority and pedestrian safety improvements. The Q102 currently provides local bus service between Astoria, Queens, and Roosevelt Island in Manhattan via Long Island City. The recommendation is to revise the travel path of the Roosevelt Island-bound Q102 in Long Island City to use 40th Avenue to travel from 21st Street to Vernon Boulevard instead of 41st Avenue. DOT plans to implement a bus lane and other bus priority and pedestrian safety treatments along 21st Street between Queens Plaza South and Hoyt Avenue. These include adjusting legal left turns on 21st Street. New York City DOT will prohibit left turns, including those by the Q102, from northbound 21st Street onto 41st Avenue, and will install a left turn bay on northbound 21st Street at 40th Avenue, 1 block north. There will be no change in annual operating cost, as the net travel time and distance would remain the same. The proposed implementation date is this spring or summer upon implementation of the revised traffic patterns by New York City DOT. Finally, I just want to thank you, Craig, for your leadership and support, and I really look forward to continuing to work with you when you were the COO. Thanks.
Thank you, Judy. Any questions for Judy? Before we move on to Lou, I need a motion to accept the March minutes. Wait, corrections. Wait, let me accept the David, go ahead, David. Go ahead, Andrew.
Sure. On page 6, under the list of public speakers, Joe Rappaport's name is misspelled. It just says Rapport.
Ooh.
And on page 10, under strategy and customer service report, it says, as they have been calling in internally, when it should say have been calling it internally.
Great.
Other
Okay.
than that, that's it.
Okay. Do I have a second to accept the minutes as amended?
Second.
Okay, second. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Motion approved. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to Lou. We have procurement, and we also have another vote. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to take a minute, Craig, to thank you for the time I worked with you, for you, dotted line reporting, whatever it was always a pleasure, and I always learned a lot, and you've been very supportive. Thank you. The New York City Transit procurement package includes one item for an estimated amount of $37.2 million. This item is for the exercise of an option to purchase 52 R252 flat cars from Harsco Metal Rail that will replace an aging fleet and will be used by New York City Transit Department of Subways. The option includes related non-car items such as spare parts and technical documentation. A flat car, when moved by a locomotive, is designed to handle and transport track maintenance machinery and other heavy equipment, materials and supplies supporting work throughout the New York City Transit system. The base contract for the purchase of 65 flat cars was awarded in June 2018 as a result of a competitive request for proposal under an immediate operating need. Two options were included, option A for 27 flat cars awarded in October 2020, and option B, which is the subject of this procurement action. Based on an anticipated award in May 2022, the first flat car will be delivered in July 2023, and the final car will be delivered in September 2025. I submit this procurement for board approval.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the procurement? Okay, so Randy, yes. So second, David? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, any other questions from anyone? If not, I need a motion to adjourn. Randy? Andrew? Second, Andrew, all those in favor? Okay. Back at 12:30, folks. Thank you.